Maggie arrived Friday. She's a Jersey cross. She's 6 and she's due in 2 months to calve to a Holstein bull. She came named. She came from a local dairy who very well looked after her. She's absolutely beautiful. I was very worried before we got Maggie, as I've never owned dairy cows before. I've never milked a cow. We've owned beef cows before, but nothing that we've had to be so close to or handle so much. So to get Maggie was a huge relief. Justin, the farmer, did a really great thing. He has hundreds of cows and he picked out a perfect house cow for us, and we're super appreciative of that. She doesn't have any history of mastitis and she doesn't have any history of calving issues. There is something called milk fever, which I didn't know about, but you have to get some supplements or some pellets to avoid milk fever. At the moment, we've just got her in this round pen to just basically to see how she was and make sure she's, oh my God, lovely. You're right. We've got her in this round pen just to get her used to us and make sure she knows that we mean good things and we mean food, to handle her and make sure she's settled in before we put her into the big paddock with the horses. We still need to do a little bit of fencing in the big paddock, which we're going to try and get done today, and we'll be following the cow and the horses with the chickens. She's really easy to handle. She hasn't tried to kick. She's not aggressive at all. She's quite happy to let us handle her. She adjusts her feet really well so I can get to her udder. She has no issues with me brushing her or playing with her udder or stupid. Really pretending to milk her. She's quite pleasant. So when we got her home, the farmer suggested that we dry her off, which means stop milking her and allow her to dry up. She was still being milked up until the point when she came here in a commercial dairy, and she wasn't giving as much as she normally would, so he suggested that we dry her off. You want to do that about 6 weeks before their due date. So she's due in 2 months, so we'll just dry her off and wait till she has that calf. I put these boys in here just to turn it over a little bit and eat any of the leftover plants that are in here. These are all my roosters from spring last year, so these guys will be ready to go into the freezer soon. We'll kill them and put them in the freezer. So they're in here just to really not only turn over the ground, but spread their manure and eat any of the last little bits of vegetables before they are put into the freezer. So they're doing a pretty good job actually. They've eaten all the leaves off the top of the plants. This is all carrots under there. So I'll pick those carrots out of the ground, they'll be fine to eat. And they've eaten all the kale and the tops of the beetroots. So hopefully they'll add a little bit of organic matter to the soil, turn it over, and then we will get rid of them. Something ate all of my sweet potatoes. I think it was a rabbit or maybe a hare. I've just covered it up. There's no leaves left. And they even pulled one completely out of the ground and ate it. So lesson learned, I will put the sweet potatoes in a fenced yard, not in the open garden. My stepdaughter and I planted, and the little boys helped as well. We planted the rest of the onions that had sprouted from last year's onions. So they sprout, and I pretty much just break them apart into, because they sprout multiple heads, I broke them apart and planted them out so they'll each grow an individual onion. Piglets are in their new paddock. Mama pig is in her farrowing pen ready to go, settling in nicely for the end of the month when she's due. One of them has a stick in their mouth. That's cute. I was listening to some really great podcasts yesterday while I was cleaning out the pantry, and they were talking about how to make money on a homestead, how to become self-reliant on a homestead, you know. For me at the moment, while I budget a lot to try and maximize, you know, which way my food's going, I try and buy a similar product for a whole range of animals so I can buy in bulk to make it cheaper. But at the moment, I haven't really been breaking even. I wouldn't say, if anything, I think we lost on the first batch of piglets. You know, a lot of this is uncharted territory for me. Yes, we've had pigs before, but we haven't had this many. We haven't bred them. You know, we've only ever had growing pigs or grower pigs. So it's definitely something that I think about a lot. And I think you should, because you don't want to be just throwing money down the drain, obviously. But again, a lot of what we're doing here I've never done before, so I needed to grow that first batch of piglets to know what I was in for. And I can research a lot, you know, I research all the time, but sometimes you need that hands-on experience, you know. Sometimes you really need to just try something out and test it out. I've never bred these type of chickens before. I've never had broody chickens before, you know, because they're just eating all the food. You know, I put 4 eggs under a duck and I thought, what have I got to lose, you know? They hatched out fine, but the mother duck didn't want to take care of them. When she would call to them, they didn't understand her call because she's a duck and they're a chicken. So essentially I just bred some orphans, which now I have in a storage box in my house. And I'm continuously having to change their bedding, I have to change their water, I have to feed them a lot, twice a day. Seemed like a good idea at the time, so I won't be doing that again. What I normally do is I hatch the chicks out from underneath their mother. Then I take the chicks away until all the eggs that are gonna hatch have hatched. Then I give all the chicks back to the mum. She takes care of the rest. She protects them from predators, she keeps them warm, she finds food for them. I give them food obviously, but she'll find food for them and tell them what they need to do. She'll show them where the water is, etc. So that there's nothing for me to do. The mum does it herself, you know. I guess what I'm trying to say is, when you're trying to make a profitable homestead, sometimes there's a setup cost, I guess. And it's finding where that setup cost stops. And while it's all well and good that we're starting to grow our own food and we have all these lovely animals and, you know, I have plenty to do, I've got plenty of stuff to do, there's going to come a time where, you know, we're going to run out of money and we're going to get sick of throwing money down the drain, basically. So I guess there's a setup cost, and, you know, we have jobs so we can pay for the setup cost. But, you know, if you were living solely off the homestead, you would need to make money from the get-go. But eventually, this place will need to pay for itself. These animals will need to pay for themselves. The whole breeding program will need to be paying for itself. So that's something that I really need to knuckle down on this year, I think. thought that was the dance too.
Mommy, happy